And that's why we need people, members, readers, listeners, to make those phone calls, to go to Fighting for Truckers and to support those efforts because, Louis can preach it from the mountaintop all day long. But until the masses are beating up lawmakers with that same message, it's not going to sink in.
Landline Now, welcome back. It's the first of the month, which means a new issue of Landline magazine is on the way to your mailbox. And as we do with every issue, we're about to give you a sneak peek inside the cover and talk about some of the more interesting stories inside. Here to do that with me are managing editor Jami Jones and senior editor Mark Schremmer of Landline magazine. Jami, Mark, thanks for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
A lot of Marks in the room. There's a lot of Marks.
Yes.
You're outnumbered 2-1.
You're welcome, Mark Redding.
Yes, we'll have to start. We could just use the initial. Mark R. Mark
okay,
S.
There you go.
There we go. Well, Jami, let's start with you since you're the non-Mark in the room. And the editor's page, which, of course, is where you kind of set the tone for the issue every time. And this time you kind of talked about something that I think we're all thinking about because we can't watch television without it, which is all the political ads and the elections and the...
Yeah, I mean, it's in a way, it's this advertising sensory overload right now. And honestly, we're talking about this is the 1st of October. It's only going to get worse, people. I hate to say it, but the thing is, we've become accustomed to this. We know that this news cycle, we know that the ads are going to happen. And I think we have a defense mechanism, a lot of us, that when it does come on and we're just inundated with these outrageous claims that may or may not be steeped in fact, we tend to just tune out. We turn the channel, we find something else to watch, we go get a snack, whatever. So that's been one thing that society as a general has been conditioned to, that I don't think anybody truthfully is swayed by a political ad going, I had no idea. I'm going to vote for so-and-so.
I hope not.
Do some research. But the thing is, it's kind of become a year-round thing when it comes to news consumption. Yeah. It's so hard. There are so many things going on that people aren't particularly they don't like it, to be frank. I mean, the news isn't it's not unicorns and rainbows. And that makes it hard to be a consumer of the news when it's just bad all the time. And so there's this perception that if you don't watch any news, if you don't read any news, if you don't do anything, if you just casually consume it, whatever scrolls across your screen on Facebook, that must be reality. And it's not. And that's why it's really important, especially in things like the trucking industry, where your livelihood, your career, everything about it hinges on what's going on in D.C. or your state capitals, whatever. You have to be tuned into it. And I kind of compared it all to being in a drug-induced stupor for 6 weeks because I had a knee replacement. And so, it's just, your perception is altered. And so it's hard if you don't actually go out and look at things with a clear eye and a clear mind. And that's what, unfortunately, our jobs is to give you the news, whether you like it or not. And as a responsible individual, I think it's important that we all kind of make ourselves be more aware of what's going on around us in order to maybe help craft a future that's better than what we're dealing with now.
Well, and I think one of the things the magazine does is it filters out all that stuff that you were talking about that's bombarding us with, the ads about the election and the bad news and the arguing and the anger, and gets down to the facts. This is about trucking. We're not going to get into the politics. It's just the facts about what's happening in trucking.
And it's a tough place to be nonpartisan, because we all have our internal biases. And if anybody who says they don't have one is lying. Straight up, we all have internal biases. And it may not necessarily be political, but we have opinions on things that are part of our personality. They're part of how we operate. And so to be able to put those on a shelf every day and just deliver the news without that partisan bias is a challenge. But I think as a team, we do a very good job offsetting each other. And occasionally, if there's a misstep, we catch it in the editing process or something like that. And it's never intentional that we're trying to sway someone with our personal politics. But the reality is, in trucking, as a part of OOIDA, we cannot be political because whatever party is in power is the one we're going to have to work with primarily. And our D.C. folks do a great job of that, and it's everybody's responsibility down the line to work in that way as well. You can have your personal politics and make friends with lawmakers, as consumers of news and everything. I'm not saying that, but our job is not to sway you politically. Our job is to give you the facts, and that's what we're doing here without the drugs, by the way. Since I brought up the drugs earlier.
Well, there we go.
We'll go back to that.
Those might actually help this month.
Maybe this month they would. Maybe I timed that whole surgery the wrong time. But anyway.
Well, there we go. Well, all that said, Mark, let's talk about politics.
Sure.
And I want to turn to the lead article, and it's actually, of course, not the politics, but this is centering on Louis Pugh's testimony before Congress, and Louis has kind of become the truth teller at a lot of these congressional hearings. He ends up getting most of the questions when he appears before Congress. In this particular case, what was the subject and what was Louis's overall theme?
Yeah, so basically, and I love any time, whether it's been Louis, our executive vice president, or Todd Spencer, our president, that's come and speak, because it's like you said, they are the truth tellers. They kind of tell like it is. And other times that you have people representing the trucking industry, they've probably never been in a truck, definitely never, driven it a lot of the times. And these are people
they
that
might have been in a truck for a photo op, but come on.
You know what I mean. So Louis, for instance, 20 years behind the wheel. Pretty amazing stuff, and has lived life and knows where the truck drivers that are doing it today, where they're coming from. And so this hearing was on regulations and what's coming down the pike, and kind of the message, and our headline on there is dysfunctional, because that was one of the key points that Louis made, that right now the system is more focused on compliance than it is actual safety. They just want to make sure a truck driver is following this rule, hours of service down to the second. We're going to put more technology on the trucks, and we're going to mandate it, and we're going to do all this instead of really practical and safe solutions. And a big part of the message was, if you really want to improve highway safety, ask a trucker, ask the people that are on the road more often than anybody else, that are seeing what's out there, seeing what's going on. What's the way that, to make the highway safer? They're the ones who know. They're the true experts on this topic.
Well, and I think it's so important when we do have these opportunities as an association to testify before Congress, that we acknowledge that this isn't a one and done type situation. Again, I mentioned our D.C. crew earlier. They are out there every day beating the pavement. Literally driving home this exact message to individual lawmakers and their staffs every day. And that's why we need people, members, readers, listeners, to make those phone calls, to go to Fighting for Truckers and to support those efforts, because, Louis can preach it from the mountaintop all day long. But until the masses are beating up lawmakers with that same message, it's not going to sink in.
Yeah, and I think some of the people that have worked in the D.C. office before have made that point, that we can go down there and say we have 150,000 members, but if they never hear from one, that becomes a little bit less believable.
Yeah, 100%. And there have been times that we've had a call to action go out to light up the phones of a particular lawmaker, and they call our DC team and say, okay, call off the dogs. We get it. We get it. So it works. I mean, we can actually make a difference. But, as important as it is for Louis to be there, for Todd to be there in those congressional hearings, it has to be that support from the masses that really drives home the point.
And Mark, I want to just, before we go on here, wondering if you can highlight some of the particular issues that Louis talked about, because it really was kind of a compendium of a lot of the most important current issues right now. And, we can ask people to make those phone calls, but what to make those phone calls about is important.
Yeah. And this hearing went on, several hours, but to focus on kind of the regulations that, OOIDA is trying to stop from happening. Those would be speed limiters, automatic emergency brakes, just mandates toward, basically forcing electric trucks before the, charging infrastructure is in place and before the, actually have proven to be safer. And, we talk about the battery and possibly fires and all this stuff, all of the issues. And, the effort also toward autonomous vehicles, and we have all these regulations that drivers have to follow, and then we're just going to put trucks out on the road without a driver, and we don't really have a real structure in place. It's kind of unfathomable. And then that regulation, and this was a point that Louis made that I really appreciated too, is a lot of times OOIDA is painted as this anti-regulation, and that's not necessarily the case. We just want good regulations, and a good one.
Oh, but we have a whole list that could go away.
Sure, yeah.
100%. But there's also sometimes we ask for them, or for them to be enforced. In this case, broker transparency is a big one, which we're supposed to see something, an actual proposal this month of October. Fingers crossed. It was 2020 when the petition was made by OOIDA, but those were kind of the main ones. And like I said, those were the four that were kind of like, hey, get these out of here, and then one big one that, hey, bring this regulation on.
Okay. We've got just about 2 minutes left, but I did want to get to one other thing here, especially another article that you wrote, Mark, this one involving the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is an agency we don't talk a lot about, but what exactly is it that they're involved in that connects to trucking?
So, they created this truck leasing task force a couple years ago, I think about a year and a half ago. And basically what it's doing, it's looking at those predatory lease purchase agreements, the ones where the motor carrier, owns the truck. They hold the loan over the driver, and they also control the ability for that driver to pay off the loan. And that's where it becomes real problematic. And this is something that OOIDA has talked about for years and years and years, but it's nice when you get another group to say these same things, and I think it adds weight to it. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau basically spent hours, and they still have a full report coming, but they were outlining all of the ways that this is set up basically for the driver to fail. And they, to paraphrase, it was basically getting to the point of they don't want these lease purchases to succeed. The way they're set up, it's obvious they're not wanting them to. They'll happily take money for a little while, let them default on the loan,
take the truck back and sell it again,
and then start it all over again. That's basically the setup, and I'm really excited to see the full report when it comes out. There's gonna be a lot of as the CFPB said, this is just the appetizer. There's more to come on this topic.
Okay. We've run out of time here, but I want to thank you both for giving us a little bit of a peek inside the cover of the latest issue of the magazine. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mark R.
Mark S. thanks you as well.
There we go. We'll be back in just a moment with more of our program. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.